Meditation for Wednesday of Holy Week from Mark chapter 14, the first 11 verses. It is entitled Anointing Devalued. The focus for this fourth day of Holy Week is the anointing of Jesus' body with very expensive ointment. The record in Mark's Gospel chapter 14 verse 3 states, "While he was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at table, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment of nard, and she broke open the jar and poured the ointment on his head." The topic I'm giving this meditation is Anointing Devalued. The account of the anointing is carried in John's Gospel, chapter 12, verses 1 to 8, as well as in Luke chapter 7, verses 36 to 50. Somehow, I like best the account given in verse 38 of Luke. She stood behind him at his feet, weeping, and began to bathe his feet with her tears and to dry them with her hair. Then she continued kissing his feet and anointing them with the ointment. And now this gives a graphic description of the woman whom Jesus encountered. There are several words communicating movement, action. She was standing, weeping, bathing, drying, kissing, anointed. She could very well be described as action woman. Incidentally, I recall a story once told by a retired British minister of religion. He was relating a most remarkable incident in his life as a young probationer minister. He said that a woman who met him while he was attending a public function noticed him in his clerical garb. She came up to him, obviously having had a little too much to drink, and said in a very endearing manner, "Vicar, I may not have faith, but I certainly got works." The woman in the incident of Jesus at the Pharisee's home was, based on Luke's account, well known for her works, a woman in the city who was a sinner. And today we might refer to such a person as a street woman, a lady of the night, a prostitute. Although described as a sinner, it must be admitted that she was not alone in this sin, because the men of the city had been exploiting her, using her body for pleasure. Therefore, it was the sin of the society. It is an historical fact, is it not, that women have always been victimized in this way. There used to be a time here in Jamaica when the airwaves were flooded with songs degrading women, portraying them as objects for male satisfaction. Now those days are passing into oblivion as more women than men seem to be graduating from the universities here in Jamaica. More women than before are entering the medical and legal professions. And consequently, there is more respect for women, and it is now being appreciated that males and females, although divinely created to carry out different biological roles, are of equal worth in God's sight. Jesus Christ, Son of God, has always been challenging us to stop and think before we cast accusing fingers or to throw stones of condemnation at women. In the Gospel of John, chapter 8, we are told that Jesus was teaching in the temple when his opponents, the scribes and Pharisees, brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. The Mosaic law had decreed that such women were to be stoned. However, by challenging all sinless men to be the first to throw a stone, Jesus was in effect saying that she had been victimized and that the men who had used her should also be stoned. The men must have asked questions, are we not all guilty? Are we not equally to be blamed? And Jesus' approach is sympathetic, seeking to understand the person and what might have been the fundamental reason behind the woman's actions. Now we are presented with another woman who featured in his ministry as she came and anointed him. And Jesus instinctively knew that something in her past must have caused her to come forward to anoint him. He was certainly seeing beyond her actions, no doubt understanding and appreciating her history, and therefore not desirous of being too judgmental of her.